Okay, great. Well, welcome to the halftime review. We're excited to be joined by Matt Ward this afternoon, founder of the British Football Coaches Network. Matt is an FFA licensed coach and has a wealth of experience working within football, primarily in Asia. We'll be discussing the topic of new cultures and employability with how the Asian football landscape works and looks like. We'll also delve into creating a professional brand for you as a coach. The plan for this afternoon, Matt will present his thoughts and ideas throughout the webinar, and we'll put some questions across to him, so very similar to previous webinars. We'll have some Q&A at the end, and we'll encourage people to throw their questions in the chat box, and we'll do our best to ask them to Matt. Matt, thanks again for joining us from Taiwan. Can you start us off with just a bit of background to your coaching journey?
Yeah, sure. It's a pleasure to be asked on as a guest, gents. Thank you very much, and you're doing a great job, and I'm really fortunate to be included. So thank you very much. So yeah, I'm currently back in Taiwan now. I've moved back here from China. I quit the last role I had in China when all the virus stuff happened. So all in all, I've been in and around Asia for getting on for 9 years now. I came to Taiwan first. I've been in Singapore, I've been in Philippines, been in the Middle East, if we're counting that as Asia as well. Also China, Hong Kong, Macau. So I've got quite there are others with 20 or 40 years experience in the region, but I've got a fair bit of knowledge and experience in the region. And now my roots are in Taiwan. This is where I started coaching, and this is kind of where my professional career led from. So I've got a lot to be thankful for from the country. And from coaching in the top tier league, the Taiwan Premier League, only for 3 matches. And then I went to the Philippines, and then from the Philippines to China in a coaching capacity. And now back in Taiwan again. And yeah, that's me, settled again for once.
Great. So I know you've got a bit of a presentation that you want to work through. So yeah, if you want to kick off with that.
Okay, great. Yeah, Jen, so am I good with going through the presentation? You guys will obviously stop me, yeah, and then question and whatnot?
Yeah, exactly. That sounds good.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot. And any time, I'm sure you will, just shout at me, tell me to stop if I start getting into it too much and going on too much as well. I get a bit excited. So I thought it would be an idea just to quickly go over an overview of kind of the Asian region's footballing culture, just to give a background as to some reasons why football is how it is in the region, and why foreign coaches especially can meet some of the barriers and challenges that we do. So I won't spend too long on this area, but it will give a bit of a background, like I said, and then lead nicely into the landscape as well. I will say just quickly, just in case there are any coaches with any Asian heritage, Asian roots, I will be as respectful as possible. I am quite truthful and opinionated because I think it's important for foreign coaches to get an honest opinion. But at the same time, I'll keep it respectful as well. My son is half Taiwanese, so there's no way, any indication that I'm making things personal. I just wanted to get that out there. So yeah, footballing culture to start with. So Asia's the largest or most populous continent in the whole world. I don't know if many people know that or not, but it does include the Middle East. So what we're talking about here is kind of what we would presume real Asia, South Asia, Southeast Asia, and East Asia as well. So if we're looking at some of the countries from that region, you've got China with around 1.4 billion people. You've got India with about 1.3 billion. Then you've got Indonesia, who are absolutely crazy about football, 260 million. Pakistan, Bangladesh, Thailand, they're all in the hundreds of millions, Japan. So population-wise, there's huge potential, you would think overall, for some really good football development. Unfortunately, a lot of the countries have the same common barriers when it comes to football development, and it does block the true potential of development across the nations. I guess just like USA, if you look at India and China, if they got their act together, I mean, the possibilities there would just be scary. But unfortunately for them, and unfortunately for us, it could be a few years until they do actually get their act together. So, in my opinion, population is kind of eradicated with potential through to their kind of organisation and the strategies and basically, the layout of their footballing culture. Now, if we're looking at India, if we're looking at Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, they're kind of Thailand, sorry, Vietnam, even they're kind of football-orientated countries. They're mad for it. Not much competition. They tend to be the stronger countries in the region. And then you're looking at the typical India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, etc., who have got different sports which take over the majority of the focus. You've got now countries such as China who've got all the resources and money in the world. They've got the people there, and you may be asking, well, what are they doing wrong? And as we'll go into soon, they're doing quite a lot wrong. So one thing that all of these countries have in common, whether they like cricket first or if they're crazy for football, is generally that they're not functioning as one total organism, and they're not developing how they should because their focus is more focused on winning rather than developing for winning in the long term or in the future. So if we look at Japan, now Japan you would say is one of the furthest forward countries, again not including Australia in this, in the region. Now Japan originally had a 50-year plan set out to develop football or make it one of the leading areas in the region basically. Now China have now set out a 30-year plan. But personally, from me, what we'll go into a little bit more with the coaching and the background, the layout over there, is it could take them anything from 70 years, and it sounds really far-fetched, but it could even take up to 100 years for them to actually get it right. Now, it sounds crazy. Nowadays, we're talking about a century before a country can actually reach their potential, but unfortunately, that is the likelihood if they don't get things straight. So the main things, a lot of these nations, and from what I've experienced as well, a lot of these nations suffer with is basically the broken formats they share. If we take the Philippines, for example, where I was, they've got a professional league of 6 teams, maybe 5 teams now. It's a professional league, but only 2 or 3 teams are really professional. Now, the rest of them are kind of semi-pro or amateur. Now, you've got then school levels, which are taking more priority over TV rights, the high school I'm talking about, and even the players who are kind of good youth players or involved in a professional team aren't allowed to play for their professional clubs. So if a school's got a school tournament or something, but your professional club's got an AFC match away in Malaysia or something, and you're in the Philippines, they're not allowed to play for the pro club. They've got to play for the school team. So the infrastructure gets in the way, and most of it is down to the power struggles. So people struggling with power, they're just wanting to make selfishly their own money. A lot of this also comes down to saving face, which is quite common in most countries in Asia. Now, of course, foreigners and Europeans, we also want to save face, but we do it in a different way. It's not such a big thing as it is in a lot of Asian countries. Now, this is where it comes, where a huge focus now outweighs development of players and also coaches, because it all adds to saving face. They want to be seen as the most powerful unit, the most powerful coach, the most powerful owner. They want to be seen not being told that their coaching session is incorrect, or that they can't make any improvements, or that they should be developing a kid this way, or letting them make some decisions. They want to save face. If you try and educate, they may say, yes, okay, I agree. And then it's forgotten with pretty much straight away behind your back. So this is a huge thing, one which foreigners do have to get used to and respect, because it plays a huge part in a country's culture. And 2, it's something, you've got to accept and get on with. But all in all, it's indirectly really affects the development of a nation's country. So we're looking at how face damages, it kind of moves into the football landscape now, where we go into more kind of what we're here for, talking about the coach development and what it's like to coach over there as well. Now, in areas of Asia, this is from China, and this isn't just Asia. I mean, this is all over the world. You're still getting academies with big lines, and I mean, in that photo, they've got almost got a ball each. But I've been at PE lessons where there's been 50 kids and 4 balls, and you hear people say that, and that's no over exaggeration. So if you think about the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of schools what are in China, probably millions of schools, majority of them with over 50 in the class and a few balls to themselves, all being kind of drilled the wrong way, that's the foundations of a country, school level. And you don't just go straight into a professional academy or whatnot. So this is the starting point where most of the education needs to be ironed out and made correct. Otherwise, it just doesn't continue. Now, it's not everywhere. It's not every single school or academy which are still drilling. And there are certain areas in countries and academies or schools or clubs what are trying to do it the right way, or who have taken on board some of the influences from foreign coaches, which is good to see. Now, the big issue that you'll find, or that we find, and it comes back to the face thing and materialistic and wanting to show power and wanting to show that you've got the best U9 team, you've got the best girls team, is coming back to the value of losing face or not being allowed to lose face. So you will find that in some countries, I can't speak for the ones where I haven't worked in, as a coach, you'll be told, okay, you're here to do A, B, and C, but whatever you do, you need to win matches. So I know we go through a big argument, or at least in the UK and of course around Europe as well, as how do you get the balance between development and winning? And then we know through the youth levels, depending on age, we focused on development. Some age groups don't even keep score now, or you're encouraged to change formations or take a player off or whatnot. If we're using China as an example, there's no such thing. If you tried any of that, you'll be most likely out of a job. And that's a huge challenge for a coach. I know U10, U12 competitions where they actually get prize funds, prize money for winning a competition. So you've got then heads of football or head coaches from a school team going out just to smash all the others. So that's where, if you've been trying to develop your players into potentially to get one potential national team player, the development's going to be lost because you're under so much pressure to get a win at all costs, literally at all costs, that you're caught between a rock and a hard place. Sure. And there's not many coaches what can deal with that.
I think some of this resonates with our previous webinar with Darryl Willard, who touched on his experiences in Azerbaijan. And I think some of them, just picking up on a few things that I think coaches need, especially when they go away. And I can speak personally, is thinking about some of the challenges you face, and just remember that some of these challenges are no different to what you'll experience back home, which is maybe one of the many reasons why I've thought, okay, I want to try coaching abroad. I know it was some of the reasons for me. And I think one of the things is, I know Darryl used a 3-month guide, but I think one of the initial skills, you may agree, is kind of having patience. Because say, for instance, you move from one coaching opportunity to another in the UK, for instance, for argument's sake, and you're dealing with new staff, new management above you, you have your ideas that you want to implement, you have your ways of coaching, you have maybe things that are more of a priority than others, maybe an obvious one that would be development over winning. And I think would you agree that patience is key, and you have to kind of suss out maybe which individuals that you've come into contact with in the new organisation or club to really use them to kind of start nudging your preferred ways of running sessions?
Absolutely, yeah, you're right, Lloyd. And this also comes down to something we should all do, but because I don't like to use the word desperate, a lot of coaches are desperate for any role when they want to go to Asia. They don't do the due diligence, or they don't meet the owner or the academy owner or their head coaches or the bosses or the school principal or head of PE.
Sure.
And they don't actually see if they can work together or see if it does kind of fit into what they both believe in. They're just like, yeah, no problem, I'll do that. And then they start working towards that, and then they just bang heads. And this goes back to the kind of the losing of face. So, you know, many times I've gone to do a school demo for an academy I opened up in China, and I had a good job at the time. And the principal came over to me after 10 seconds. I think I stopped, and then I demoed, and then I let the kids try it. And the principal came running over and said, well, through the translator, he said, "Oh, Matt, he wants you to join and take over the football program." I said, "Look, that's great. I'm really thankful for the offer, but I've got my own job." So straight away, it's that kind of erraticness where they see something which they think they might like, and as a coach, you may think, "Oh, look, he likes what I do." So you would then go in there and take the job and think you're being looked after and everything. But the reality is, it's not everyone, but they can quickly get bored of you and the way you do coach and what you're trying to do. Now, this isn't everyone. You know, there are some good people and companies and schools and clubs to work for. But this tends to happen in the excitement of it all. They go, "Yeah, right, we want to make you an offer. You're going to take over the whole program, no interference." And then just another example, one of my friends who coached, he got to a cup final with his school team, I think U14s. In the cup final, he was told that a school teacher had to then take over the team for the cup final. It wasn't even a PE teacher, it was a science teacher or something. So he's been with this team for 3 years. They get to a cup final. He's told to move out of the way. A school teacher then takes over in the final and they lose. So not only has he not been able to lose on his own terms, but he's developed the team to obviously, he's got the balance right, got them to the final. And then he was made to lose the final. And after that, it's no coincidence, but he was out of a job, which, yeah, can happen.
Is that the sort of thing that happens often, or is that like a one-off story?
It can happen more often than not. I would say a high percentage of something like that can happen. And if not, it's because you've stood your ground and fought your corner, and you stuck by your beliefs, which is another incorrect thing to do, because you're again banging your heads against the authorities. And yeah, you've got to have a really, really good, a good role, a good organization or a good club to actually get full sturdy relationship.
It's funny, like, because I'm just thinking about one experience, and it was a role I kind of took in Australia, and I did a Skype, and to be honest, the main crux of the conversation was what I was like as a player. Now I'm looking at some of those on the call, like, they know I'm all right on a Sunday, but at any high level, I'm okay, being polite there. And what I should have done was really use that as a warning sign, but I can totally agree with, you know, I was just finishing off a degree, and thankfully they said the university said I'd still finish it off whilst moving to Australia, when really I should have went. It's probably not the right opportunity, because there's been no talk about coaching. Putting it plain and simple. So now, was it a wasted year? Probably not. Could that have been a year maybe better suited elsewhere if I stayed in England? Probably. Yeah, I think if I'd been a bit more mature with the decision, I probably would have stayed. So,
Matt, going back to the going back to development, not particularly being at the forefront of, I guess, coaches' thinking. I mean, what do they have in terms of a national curriculum? Like, obviously, here we're looking through the FA. I mean, what is it like there?
So, again, just because I know more about it than China, but it's also fractured in in the Philippines, also Taiwan as well. But in China especially, the country's so huge, you can't police it. They've got, in each province, the province is like a country, basically. You've got 50 or 60 different cities in a province. You've got hundreds of thousands of schools in each province. Now, within not only each province, where you've got a separate provincial FA, Football Association, you've got a city district football association. And in each of these, you may have a British contingent, a Portuguese, a German, a Dutch. And they're all going from their own philosophies. And I'll touch on it again later, but I got interviewed by the local Chinese press, and I said, look, if you ask me first I asked that you're not going to put me in jail, right? If I'm going to actually speak my mind, and they said, no, we agree with what you say. So I said, okay, cool. I said, what is your philosophy? How does China play? What are you trying to do with youth? How are you developing your talent pool? I mean, why isn't your talent pool as good as quality as Iceland? It's crazy. I said, what is Chinese philosophy? And they said, no, you're right. They said, we follow a technical director from, this is just an example, from Portugal, and then Holland. No one's communicating, let alone communicating with the CFA, and they're all just doing their own thing. It's all ad hoc, and there's no central nucleus of what should be produced. And this is why I truly think it could be another 70 years before any sign of things coming together comes into play. And like you were saying, Lloyd, when you feel it in your bones when something isn't right, you're thinking, hang on, aren't we going to be talking about some kind of academy structure or coaching philosophy here, or just some kind of template? And normally you wouldn't entertain that. If any other industry, you'll be out the door, wouldn't you? If you're in the factory and they say, look, I know you're not trained to put your hands in the metal clogs and everything, but can you just do that? You'd be like, no, mate. So yeah. In terms of this, it's not just school level or private academy level or grassroots level which is effective. Here's another kind of example, really does hit home how this affects from grassroots all the way to professional. So in one of our matches, when I was at Shanghai Shenzhen in Division 1 in China, we went away to Wuhan Zhou, who at the time was coached by Kiro Ferrara, who used to be the Juventus in Italy centre-back. On Football Manager, he was always like tackling 20, position 20, and also was the Juventus manager for a while as well. So you got Ferrara there. His backroom staff are the old backroom staff from Capello's England. So they're all well qualified. They pretty much got everything nailed down. They know what they're doing. They're not doing bad, although they've got a load of money. But we go away to their place and we beat them. We smash them 3-1. Totally smash them. Now, the next day, unfortunately, because I was just a lowly assistant, my job is waking up, sometimes with a hangover, to go and watch the reserves play. So then you're getting up at 8 a.m. the next day after you've just been buzzing from winning an away game. You're going to watch the reserves play. And I'm looking across the field, and Ferrara's sat down on the other side having a cigar. He's just looking cool. And he's just there, legs crossed, having a cigar. And next to him was this little, short, overweight Chinese guy. It was their owner. And the owner was sort of animated, and he was actually, what I then realised, I was like, what's going on? He was actually going through the game and how he wants Ferrara to play and everything. And Ferrara was just shaking his head, and he's just blowing his smoke out. The owner's smoking in his face, they're smoking each other's face. So even Ferrara wasn't immune to being told, which is predominantly a non-football person, the owner, of what to do. And just going back into the kind of the face subject, we also experienced it at professional level ourselves, where again we was winning in an away match, and our team manager came to the bench. This is during a game with 2-0 up against one of the league contenders, and the Chinese team manager, not the head coach team manager, the actual logistics team manager, came and through the translator said, "Oh, you've got to change your defender." Our gaffer was like, "What are you talking about, man? We're 2-0 up." He said, no, the boss is watching the game back home with his mates, and they've all discussed and said, you've got to change your defender now. Now I know why. I know why we needed to change it. It's because if we won that, it would have been our third game, and it would have been a third win bonus, which means all of the staff and players get a triple win bonus. So it was cheaper for our owner to cause some disruption than it would have been to pay a triple win bonus. So anyway, we had to make the change. We ended up losing 4-3. That's from being 2-0 up. So we made the change. We had to put in the defender. He wanted to put in from the subs bench. And we ended up losing 4-3. I don't know if that's been done before. So that's just another example of, if you do go out to Asia, and you build yourself up as a coach from grassroots into a professional club, or even at national team level, you're not immune. If anything, it's going to get worse. And
Right.
as I'm sure we're going to go through later on, that's how we have to be ready for it.
Can I just ask, there's a couple of questions just came in, Matt, from Keith and Aaron. Keith's asked, would you agree it's easier to work for an association, whether that be regional or national level, than a club, with its inherent issues and power struggles, even though obviously it can happen within an association, like I say, at regional or national level?
They've really put thought into that question, because it's really, really tough to choose. I would say you're better off in a club academy where at least, let's face it, they're not that bothered about what happens in the academy. There
Right.
aren't many clubs around which care about the talent being produced to go into the first team. Somewhere like China, the top clubs, they just go out and buy talent. So I would say club. At least you can, in let's say a governing body, CFA or district FA or county FA. It's not like the England FA where you've got Nottinghamshire and that's just your little hub. You've got one or two line managers. Here you could be in Shanghai, and you can have someone 5 hours on a plane away in内Mongol up north near Inner Mongolia. And they could be saying, oh yeah, one of my mates saw what Matt's doing down in Shanghai. It's not really following the protocol what we do in Inner Mongolia. And then you get a call from his boss, his assistant, and before you know it, you've got even more interference. So that's obviously on a bigger scale. If you're somewhere like the Philippines, smaller scale, but then it goes back to the power struggle. You've got people who are from footballing backgrounds, but they're known around the city. Maybe they own a hotel, and they just want to have their stamp on it, regardless of your expertise. So large nation, small nation, you still get the interference. And when you guys have on, some national team managers, which I think you will do in the future, I'm sure they'll say the same. So for me, I would go towards the club, certainly, especially even in Taiwan. I know the background in the Taiwan national team. It's a political minefield. It's almost used as a political tool to get votes for the new mayor or president. It's ridiculous.
Brilliant. The question from Ryan is, how many talented kids are going under the radar due to the lack of structure and a structured pathway from grassroots to academy or first team?
Great question. Now, one of the reasons is because a lot of families where I've been, Philippines, China, even Taiwan, Singapore, Malaysia, their kid, if they are a professional player in a professional academy or at an academy, they will pay to have them involved in a national team or involved in the trials. So let's say, for argument's sake, there's a quota of 27, a squad of 27 for a U14 squad. And you've got some kids who are kind of from the back streets in a village somewhere rurally in China, who are amazing players, amazing talent, and strong. You could bring them in and develop them into world beaters. But then 5 kids from these unknown villages are never going to get that chance, as long as that there's families with money and kids who are all right. They can be professional, but they're not going to be developed anywhere close to what they need to be. And because they haven't got the real hunger, this is another topic. They come from
Yeah.
a privileged background. The parents and families pay for everything. They get put into places. So straight away, in a nation like China, under the radar, you've got to say millions. The country's 1.4 billion, millions of talent. And you can have all these scouts, but the scouts do the same. Even if the foreign scouts go in and say, hey, look, I've got 10 kids here, I want to develop these especially, there's always some interference from somewhere to say, no, sorry, we've got to put in Mr. and Mrs. Wang's son because, they're a president of this company and whatever. And the talent just, they miss out. And that's one of the reasons in India as well. So I've heard. I've been to India, but yeah, so I've heard it's the same. It's really common in Asia. Money pays the way over talent. It kills it.
Yeah. No problem. Yeah, we've got a couple of questions coming in, but we'll save a few for at the end. So we'll let you crack on if you like.
So just it seems like, I know it seems really pessimistic, and I'm one for kind of pushing people to go to Asia, and I stand by that for the selfish reasons of you can still develop as a coach massively. You've got so many chances to develop as a coach, whether it be the amount of coaching sessions you get to do in a day, whether it is taking a kid with no skill level and building them up into a school team or a county or province team, or even working with them provincial teams and getting them into a national team. Now, there's British coaches what have been there and other foreign coaches what are there now with football associations, which are doing a great job at just that. They're balancing all of this interference. They'll tell you a few stories themselves, but they get on with it. They're getting well paid, but it's a great job for them, a great opportunity, but it's met with a lot of frustration. If you could put it in other countries, it would be a dream job. Now, when you look at it, okay, you're developing, great, but as we said, it comes down to winning. And this is a great quote from Steve Darby, who knows, I would say, probably the most about all Asian, Southeast Asian and East Asian countries from the development side, and also the professional national team side. And he says winning gives you power, and it's totally right. So if we switch the mindset, which we may have to switch ourselves, maybe if we say, okay, if I take over a school team, a U15 school team, and I win the school league or a cup, maybe then I'm given 1 year bit of freedom to then develop how I want to. Maybe if I do the winning first, then I've got the time to breathe, the time to work with my players without interference. And it's so true. Winning gives you power. If you're winning, well, at a professional level, you've got to win. Especially in Asia, you have to win. Our contract in China, not mine in the Philippines, but in China, if we lost 3 games in a row, your contract could be terminated with no severance pay. So in Asia, there are many pro contracts at club level. If you lose 3 games in a row, I'm sure other clubs differ, you can just go with no compensation paid. And that basically comes down to, it shows the focus of a club. And again, at Shanghai Shenzhen, we had a youth academy and we had a reserve team. We went in there, all of the first team players, which we selected, were from the reserve team. Why are they in the reserve team? They didn't know how to identify players. And then we kicked all the first teamers out because they were good enough to be in the reserve team. So really, they don't really put a great focus on developing. Now, if you go back to the populations, and if you go back to the amount of the size of the talent pools, it's scary. If countries like China and India got it right, India are a bit further on. I shouldn't really class India the same as China yet. But for all the resources, for all the money thrown at it and interest shown, China are so far behind for them reasons, and they're not interested. If they sat down and said, you know what, we paid a lot of money for all these foreigner specialists, which they have. They can pay for the best foreign coaches from around the world. And if they're left to do their job, then China would have a really, really strong nation of footballers. But that, I can't see that happening for the factor of culture and face and needing to be the people in power and being in charge and having their stamp on it. It's really sad. It hurts me. But it's not to mean that we can't go over as coaches and try to make a difference. Because if we don't, if I say, nah, I'm not going to do that anymore, what's the point? If you guys say, what's the point? Matt's just said all of this is interference, no point. Then they're not going to get anywhere. So we can still help. We can still help.
Just on that one, Aaron's asked a question relating to, players going under the radar. Sorry, it was from Ryan. How many talented kids are going under the radar due to a lack of a structured pathway at grassroots to academy level? And has this improved? Obviously, you've been in Asia for quite some time. Have you seen a steady improvement in this area?
Yeah, I think it would be unfair to say that it hasn't improved, because it has.
Sure.
And it will continue to steadily improve at the time that the ones in power want it to improve, or as long as that they take credit for it. But it has improved. Now, the pathways struggle because there's a lot of pay to play. So there's a lot of private academies where kids have to pay £15 per session. So the last two companies I was general manager of, our football academies, one of them was one of the strongest and best private academies in Shanghai. Shanghai is 25 million people, or whatever it is, 23 million people. But their families or their kids are paying, on average, £18 to £20 for one session in a block of, for a season, in a block of 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
So straight away, these academies are not accessible to them players who are playing in the streets in the villages of a third-tier city.
Yeah.
So straight away, you're losing huge talent pool, and the pathway breaks down because you get, I'm sorry to say, and I hope that my son doesn't grow up to be one of them, you get overly spoiled children what think that they are better than they are because they've been the best player in this pay-as-you-play academy, and then they think they can make the jump into a national team structure where they might come across some of the best players from the district, what have been handpicked from certain regions, and then they get brought down a level or two. Now, a quick example is the region east of China, next to bordering Turkmenistan. Now, they are almost kind of European. They're almost Uzbeki, Turkmenistani, Eastern European. They're big, strong Chinese players. And when they have their provincial teams come and face other teams, they wipe the floor with them. So a lot of their players should be chosen from these regions. But because of some politics and some family money involved and everything, again, it's not going to happen. And going back to even the professional players, at our club, we had some of the worst players who wouldn't even get in a Sunday league team in England. But because their girlfriend or wife or their friends of the family or the family's friends are known, they get a move to one of the best Super League teams, playing in the cup final on TV. And my mate, who's a supporter, he travels to watch him, he's saying, Matt, how's this guy playing now in the cup final? You said he was in your reserve team and couldn't get a game. I said, it's true. But his girlfriend's family was wealthy and politically known, and he got a move. So the pathway, again, it's improving. It will continue to improve. But again, that poisonous effect is still in there, disrupting it all. I'm not saying it's just Asia either, because it happens everywhere. But to that limit where it's so obvious, it is painful. It is.
There are one question from Craig that kind of relates to this. Is Japan in the same boat as, you know, the other Asian countries you're talking about in terms of the structure, the power struggle, the politically driven people and things like that?
Now, in terms of structure, no, and in terms of pathway, it's a lot more organised. When you look at Japan and South Korea, you can say they're the kind of role models. Not that any other country would admit it. Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, they think they are the best in their regions. And when they're not, and they find out they're not, it hurts them. It hurts them massively. But really, you got to look at the Japanese model. But again, it's that face thing. No one wants to say, hey, we need to be following what Japan are doing. Taiwan tried to do a little bit, as much as they'll admit it, but they have got it right. But that's taken Japan 50 years. And that's taken Japan 50 years of accepting change, of bringing over specialists and saying, yes, you know what, we're listening to you because we want to make this right for our country. And they had the discipline, and they had the empathy, and they was allowed to let their face drop slightly, let their human side come out, and they realized, look, we need to benefit from this. We need this to happen. So that's the difference there. And that's what's holding a lot of the other countries back. Now, if you look at, Japan, but I didn't finish about Japan, but on Japan, now there's others who are more specialized in Japan and Korea, but Japan still struggle with the cultural side of things. For example, my old gaffer, who after working with him and a couple of other jobs, he went to a Japan second tier team, Tokyo Verdy. He had him in touching distance of a playoff place, but because he wanted to rest some of the players for the league push, the league promotion, he rested some of the players in the Emperor's Cup. Now, the Emperor's Cup it's not like the FA Cup, it's like a friendly cup in honor of the Emperor, the Emperor's Cup. So he rested some of the first team players. They lost to a lower league team. And after that, he was shortly sacked. Not sacked, but things weren't good in the camp, and they soon parted ways. And it wasn't any coincidence that after that Emperor's Cup situation, it kind of happened. So the Japanese are very stuck in their cultural ways. So are the British, so are Europeans as well. So, you're not immune to it there either, but structurally, logistically, they've been working it a lot longer than other countries, or should I say they've been committed professionally to it longer than a lot of countries.
Brilliant.
Great.
We'll save some of the other questions, I think, for a little bit later. Then we can kind of move on.
Are we good to?
Yeah.
Any more
we're
questions?
good. Yeah, crack on.
Cheers, guys. Oh man, so so the differences in culture and coaching. This is where it's quite important for coaches who are probably going to be looking to going out. Now, I hope I haven't painted. I'm trying to paint this picture to make people ready, because there's so many coaches what go over there and they didn't know all of this, and they get there and they're like, eating rice every day is the least of the worries. So if they've got this, if they know this already, then if anything, it can only be better, and they're ready for it, and they can adjust themselves to it. So the cultural differences within coaching. So basically, what you can probably expect, there's a lot of autocratic style of coaching. Now, this comes through just like the UK, if not, some of us still do it, right? Or at least with a bit of a mixture. But it's very inbred into some nations, whether it's in school, whether it's in home life, whether it's in kind of normal rules of the government. Some cultures are very strict, very dictated, and it reflects on the local coaches as well. Now, not all coaches, like everywhere, there's good coaches and bad coaches, every single country. But a big telltale sign is when you go and you set up your session, and you may be sharing the field with another academy from a local coach, and they'll go as far as actually slapping or beating players or shouting in their face. And all the players are literally stood there, and they're pointing what to do, right? You go there, bring the ball here. No, stop, right, take it there. No, watch, do it this way. And it is a dictatorship. And going back to development again, if you look at, again, using China as an example, the amount of coaches in China who are still doing this, it also hurts the development massively. Now, it's not only the local coaches, you get the foreign coaches getting lazy because it's seen as acceptable, because you can get away with it. Now, if you start doing that in England, one of your players is going to go home and say, oh yeah, Matt punched me in the stomach today because I didn't do 10 shuttles of a ball correctly. You can't get away with it. But here, it's a known thing. So foreign coaches get lazy with their coaching. They forget where they come from. Obviously, not professional coaches, because if you're professional, you should be on it all the time at whatever level. Grassroots, you're still a professional coach. You've got to go in there and be as professional as you can. But they get lazy. A big one is, from that comes a lack of decision making. So, of course, we like to ask questions. We like to give options. We like guided discovery. But they don't get this because they're being dictated to. They're being told what to do. Now, what a side thing from this, a side product from this, is shown in the games where a lot of Asian players, now I can safely say full Asian players from many countries in Asia, Southeast Asia, East Asia, South Asia, have this issue on decision making. So they could be carrying a ball, but they don't know when to pass or when to carry the ball further. Or they're in the final third and they don't know when to take the shot. They're waiting to be told, or they're not sure how to do it. They've not been allowed to make their own decisions. They've not been faced with two options. Here's option A, here's option B. Now, in training, remember, I gave you that question and you answered it yourself. They don't have any of that. Now, the only thing different to that I've seen is obviously where players have been educated by good foreign coaches who have been given time to develop and are trying to put their coaching principles in. And it's like a breath of fresh air. Now, as a coach, that's when you say, you know what, look at my team. I've coached them to do that, and that's when you get the job satisfaction. That's why you moved to Asia. And from all the badness that I've talked about, that's that bit of job satisfaction what makes it all worthwhile. And then you get connected to the kids. The parents see you doing a good job. Some of the local coaches and even some of your bosses say, you know what, you are doing a great job. And that's the other side of it. If you can win all that over and do that, you get the best job satisfaction ever. Now, you won't get challenged by kids. You won't get questions. Now, coming from me coaching in Taiwan, my team was made up of foreigners, a few Taiwanese locals. Going to the Philippines, I went into a full professional outfit where a lot of the players were kind of mixed European and Filipino. A lot of them are played in the German second and third tier, or the one guy was from Osasuna Reserves, a couple of guys from England, a couple of guys from the second division in Holland. And I'm doing a session, I stopped, and I'm being challenged. And I remember the first real challenge I was by an international player, a national team player, and I was thinking, oh, he's just challenged what I was coaching. And it was a real shock to the system, which was great for my development. Now, when you go to China again, at the time, or even when I've worked with academy players in China as well, my Chinese hasn't been full on for a proper conversation. So as a foreign coach, depending what level you're at, kids won't want to challenge you. Parents might, or other teachers might, but the kids won't. They're told what to do. It may take you a year to get them to ask you one question, to feel comfortable with asking you a question, or for choosing an option. Now, when you don't get that, when you've got no one challenging you, you think everything's going okay. And again, you start dictating to them. You think, oh, they're just following what I do. This is great. They're just doing what I tell them to do. No worries. Now, what I did see, because we was using a really good translator for our first team in Shanghai, a lot of it won't be said in front of your face. It's done behind your back. And this comes to, polite cultural values again. You can see it as backstabbing. You can see it as politeness, but it is that face value. So you would do a session, and then next week you'll hear that so-and-so or the team captain wasn't happy about that. And you're like, well, why didn't you bring it up in the session? Because they don't approach you. You'd have some experienced players, or you'd have some players which were developed or played in Portugal, totally different. They would come to you after the session, or they would actually stop in the session, ask the translator, and ask you a question. Why are we doing it this way? You tell them, and then the They say, okay, great, let's do it. And you can see a big difference with players, experienced ones who have played under foreign coaches or a good Asian coach, and also the difference between players who are foreign educated in terms of football education as well. So the final thing I put down here is a big problem, and that's a great challenge to take on as well if you go and coach in Asia. Players will take minimal ownership from any age. That's just, even in a business world, when you're dealing with adults, no one will take ownership. You could say, is this an orange or this an apple? And you'll say, you called this apple an orange, and they'll say, no, I didn't, but they just said it. They will deny all ownership. And this is something you've got to work with academy players, school players, youth players, your bosses, other coaches, your translators, and also pro players and national team players as well. So Asia's a great place, a great platform for a challenge, and it does improve you as a coach. No, I believe Africa as well. Sorry, I was in Ghana, which improved me massively as well. But Asia's a great platform to improve yourself for sure.
Matt, how does your just general interactions, let's say you're working with a team of, I don't know, U12 foundation age or something like that. I mean, how's the general interaction with them at practice? Because I know as coaches, I probably speak for all of us, where that's part of the enjoyment of being on the pitch and coaching with your team is just generally interacting with them and, you know, having a bit of a laugh and a joke. And then, you know, you're working on the football.
Yeah, big time. And you know what, that's spot on, George, because when you first go there and take over a team, like if I've gone and done demos, a school or a company would say, hey, Matt, do you mind coming and do a workshop or a demo? I'm like, no worries. And you turn up and it's like you just walked into a church naked or something. Everyone's like scared to do anything. Probably doesn't help having no hair, and you're like, right, okay. But as soon as you just show a little bit of humanity, or you show that you are approachable and friendly, they love it, and you have a great session. Now, if I'm far from an amazing coach, but I know how to work with kids really well. I used to be a PE teacher. So I know how to kind of implant that fine line between having a mess around and having a laugh, but also working when you need to work and be disciplined when you need to be disciplined as well. So if you get the balance right, you can have a really good laugh and they respond really well. And just like anywhere else with kids, once they respond to you, they trust you and they respect you because they like you, they enjoy your sessions, they like your kind of rubbish kiddie banter and everything. They don't get that. They might not get that at home. They might not get that from their national team boss, from their head school teacher. So you're giving them something they've never had in their life. They might be brought up from their grandparents because their parents are too busy to look after them, which is very, very common in many countries. And you're all of a sudden, you turn from not just a coach or an educator, but from an actual mentor or a teacher, and I won't go as far as saying a parent, but that kind of figure. And that's where you do start making a real difference on lives, and that's what really does makes it emotional, and it makes people want to stay there through all the hard times as well. So you're spot on with that. You've got to be careful at breaking down them barriers with respect. You can't go in there straight away and disrespect the way it's been done before. Even if coaches are there, you have to take little baby steps. You've got to there's been instances where the head coach has been pushed to one side and he's made to watch you. And then you've got to kind of say, oh yeah, sorry. And then you've got to develop him. So you've got to be like, hey, look, I really like what you did there, but maybe next time try doing it this way. And then they'll come back to you and say, hey, Matt, I tried that, loved it, great. I'm using that now. And he's recording sessions and everything, or she's recording sessions. And so it's not just the kids, but also the staff as well. You really got to go in there open-minded. You've got to go in there respectful, adaptable, and you've got to really prove yourself worthy of being allowed to educate the kids and the coaches alike.
Brilliant. One question, I guess this leads off a little bit to the last slide with you know, kind of structure, and then into this. But you know, what is the status of girls and women's football in Asia and maybe specifically China? I mean, is that viewed as, you know, something that's growing like it is here and developing really fast, or, you know, is it kind of lagging a little bit behind?
it's growing. It's growing a lot, and in some areas not as much as kind of the States and Australia. In Taiwan, they're really pushing the marketing and the exposure of the women's league here now. It's got better backing than the males league. That's just Taiwan. They take the national team serious. China won't admit it, and it'll be denied if anyone heard me saying it. But if China focused their women's resources and team on being the best women's team in the world, in time, it wouldn't happen overnight, but in time, they would be a competitor as one of the best women's teams in the world. And I'm really serious about that. So from the guys' team, it could take 70 years, maybe longer, to even get anywhere close to winning something. If they concentrated on the women's side, it could be a different story. Now, unfortunately, I had this kind of floaty vision pretty much killed when I went to watch my first Women's Super League in China. So I went with one of my bosses at a time. We travelled the north of the city of Shanghai. It takes almost 2 hours. Shanghai is not small. And we get there, and I turned up late. I get into the ground. The ground's not really full, and I'm looking around for the scoreboard. There's no scoreboard. So it's like halfway in between into the half, and I had to go up to a policeman. I said, hey, what's the score? And he said, oh yeah, 2-0. I said, okay, to who? Well, blue or red team? And he's like, oh yeah, the red team. Okay, great. So we didn't have a scoreboard. They didn't have ball boys or ball girls. Everything was just so half-hearted. And I came away from that and I thought, that's just killed it. The potential is huge there, and already they're, again now, where they should be on top of the game, one of the strongest women's teams, it's going to take now 20 or 30 years, 40 years along for them to listen to get it right. Now, they have improved it. Now they've said that every Super League males team must have a women's Super League team, which has kind of attached themselves. So that's a positive step. The Philippines, good. They concentrate on the women's team. Bless them. They're not a great skill level, but they're really strong on the girls' team in high schools and women's team as well, and a few of the Asian countries too. And I would say that now. I know we're going to go on to this topic quickly soon. But I would say I'll be looking to get myself involved in that area in women's football in Asia, and I reckon there's a real big scope for someone to really stamp their authority and make a good career out of that in a country. Now there's a British head coach at the minute in South Korea of the women's team, and an Australian assistant. His assistant is Australian, Matt Ross, as well, the Korean women's national team. Love it out there. They're allowed to do what they've been brought there to do. They get paid all right, I'm guessing. They get treated well, they get all the resources they need, and they've been told, here's a plan, in 5 years we want to be here, help us achieve this, and you could be here longer. So again, that shows that South Korea are kind of trying to do it the right way, and they're taking on board from the professional imported foreign staff as well. And for me, if I was thinking now, sat in Taiwan, I fancy getting back into coaching again. Straight away, I would go and contact one of the women's teams here. I'll say, look, I'm not trying to take anyone's job. I don't want to get paid for it. I would go in and just be assisting training. Can I work one-on-one, some player development? They would love that. And before you know it, I'm working with a professional, if you can call it a professional women's team. So then basically, I'll just take what I did in the men's game and do it into the women's game. And because I'm a little bit obsessed and I suffer with OCD and stuff, I probably would try and keep going until I was in the national team or something like this. So that would be my advice. Really get involved if you can in the women's game, especially in Asia, because it's going to keep growing.
Brilliant. Great answer. Thank you. I think we can move on. We'll save there's more good questions coming up, but we can continue. I know you're going to talk about some of them as we move through. So.
Awesome. So yeah, going into, so you get a job in Asia, then what? So this will all go into making something of yourself as a coach or a personality in Asia, or going home because nothing's worked out. Only you can change that. And it's all about marketing, just like it is in the UK, in Europe. It's how you market yourself. You could be a professional coach for a club with 1,000 Twitter followers. You're a professional coach. You don't care. But then you could be like, you could be an academy coach who's not a good coach, and really they let their staff down and their team members down and staff, but no one knows about it. But they've got 20,000 Twitter followers. So it's the whole perception. Now, if you're a good coach and you can make yourself branded as a good coach as well, it's going to help your career in Asia massively. Now, one thing is, Asia is very materialistic. Yes, you may go there as, I'm just going to say, a foreigner. You could be white, you could be black, you could be an Asian foreigner. But if they see you as a white or black foreigner, if you're a school teacher, if you're a coach, there's all of a sudden this perception that you can do that job well, rightly or wrongly. And half the time, it's wrongly, because there's a lot of poor, very, very poor foreign coaches as well, which is just as bad. But if you go there, if you're a good coach, if you're a good person, you got to look the part. If you look like someone who's just gone to Asia for a holiday and you want to go around the bars and everything, or if you're going to work scruffy, you turn up at sessions hungover or whatever, you don't look like a coach. You may say you're a coach. You may say you're working for an academy or something. You may be getting a salary, calling yourself a full-time coach, but you're not a real coach, and you're really harming your brand and you're harming your career. As coaches, we are our own brand. We have the power to create whatever we want with our career. You know, it's up to us. And I'm not saying, you know, you've got to look like the fittest coach in the world or whatever. You don't, but just take a little bit of pride when you can, you know. Is your uniform ironed? You know, are you wearing the right uniform? Have you been handed a uniform, but you're wearing a different pair of socks? Why? Just wear the uniform you've been given. Have some pride and respect about what you're doing, because it goes a long way with the Asian culture. And then materialistic, like I said, they like to see shiny things. They like to see things neat. They like to see things presentable. They like to see Versace and Armani and everything, okay? So make yourself an Armani coach. You might be a level 2. It doesn't matter. You may have never worked at a professional academy before, but it doesn't matter. You make yourself into one of these coaches, and before you know it, you could be in a professional academy. You could be in a professional club or national team system. You got to be able to be a coach as well. Don't go there. Don't get lazy. Don't start thinking, oh, this is how they do it. I've recently had an experience where I was general manager, where I took over a team of coaches, where the director of coaching, the coaching director on good money, wasn't qualified. Now, I mean, didn't have any coaching licenses. Now, that doesn't mean that you're a bad coach or a bad person, not at all. But you're a good qualified coach will always be better than a good unqualified coach. It's just the way it is. You need to be able to be a coach and use all your principles in coaching. Don't drop it just because you're tired one day or it's too hot. You're in Asia. This is what you signed up for. You've got to put it all in. You've got to be a proper coach. Don't get lazy with your session planning. Plan your sessions. You're a coach. These guys I took over, where's the curriculum? Oh, it's in our head. It's like David Brent. Where are the rules? Oh, it's in here. What are you talking about? No curriculum, no syllabus. Can you show me a session plan? I'm still waiting. None of that was in place. So this then harms the development not only of the coaches under them, but also the kids under their reign. And I'll say, okay, how can you tell me that Jeffrey's son has improved in 3 years since you were in charge? Oh, because I know, because when I tell them to change onto the right foot, they can do it. And before they couldn't do that. Well, that's great. Where are the performance indicators? Where is everything? See, you got to be able to coach. You got to be a coach without a doubt. You got to adapt culturally. Culturally, you got to be accepted. You got to go in there. If you think you're going to go to China, start learning a bit of Chinese before you even get there. Don't wait until you get there and go, oh no, I don't know any Chinese. Of course you don't, because you waited too long. Just learn the simples of how to be polite to people. Then people will warm to you better. you'll get more respect. So adapt culturally. You know, don't get down. I get annoyed by it. I'm like, oh, why is everyone walking with the phone, the face in the phone and banging into you? Why are we doing this? Because I decided to move to Taiwan and live in Taiwan. It's my choice. So adapt culturally, and even through bad days, have your bad day and then think, you know what, this is my choice. You got to adapt. A big thing in Asia, especially, Philippines are crazy for social media. Be active on social media. Philippines, you know, no one knew me. I turned up at this professional team as an assistant coach. My gaffer was their ex-national team manager. And we come off after a game and I'm being mobbed. Yeah, it might only be about 20 people, but they want photographs and signatures and stuff. And I'm thinking,
did they think you look like Shearer?
Yeah. And I'm like, no, it's just Matt Ward. And I'm like, you know what, this is great. This is what being a professional coach is about. And then you start being active on social media. It builds up your profile because they might know someone in a different position at a different club or someone in power in that country. And before you know it, you're connected to them. You got to be active. I had articles in a few Chinese media newspapers and websites and everything because I was keeping myself active. I was doing interviews and videos for the government and stuff. And all it takes is one person to see this or one parent to see this who's manager or a business owner with a club owner. This actually happens. Then you get a call. Hey, Matt, you've been coaching my kid for 10 years. I'm friends with a Division 3 team. The owner, he said he wants you to come in and run their academy. And that's it. You jump from being an academy grassroots coach into a professional academy. And that's a realistic example of what can happen. That's why you should always give before taking if you can. If someone says, hey, Matt, we're looking to open up an academy. Hey, no worries. If you want to use me to do any demos, I'll come over. Oh, yeah, but we can't really afford your train fare. No problem. I'll pay the 20 quid on the train. I'll come. No worries. Then later on, I'm sure you're going to get back something in return. Or they remember you. They ask you again. Maybe they've grown. Maybe they've got celebrities there. Maybe they're a professional club now. You don't know unless you give before taking. If you say, no, I'm not doing that, how much do I get paid? Hey, Matt, can you come and do a workshop for us? How much are you going to pay me? Straight away. You're not getting anything back in the future. There's no benefit taken first whatsoever. Too many people are still doing it. And this goes, the last one, concentrate on parents, links into kind of the social media one, which I mentioned. Parents are the key. If you're working in an academy, private or at a school, parents are one of your power sources, especially with your bosses. If you're doing a good job and the parents like you, if your bosses disagree with you, all you do is get parents who are paying money for a private school to have a meeting with the principal and then the problem's sorted. They're paying the money and often under the table payments as well. I don't know what for. And they have a big power sway on what happens as well. Also, of course, concentrate on the parents, but the kids, but also concentrate on the parents and be a strong leader and teacher. Just going back to giving the kids what they need socially as well as football. And finally, don't forget, you may have to win as well. You got to know how to win. And if you come from, let's say, England, where you've been told, hey guys, you're not really allowed to win anymore by 5-0, or you got to make substitutions, you may have a big shock when straight away you go in there and your boss is saying, why did you take your striker off at 5-0? We wanted to smash them 10-0, which is also a reality as well. Shall I crack on with coaching brand just to finish it off?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, it's just close to the end now. So coaching brand, this is, I'm not being one of them guys, oh look, I'm on Google or whatever, but it is literally the best way to show how powerful it can be. Apart from, I typed into Google Matt Ward football coach, and apart from the random American footballing photo there, all of the page was mostly my internet footprint of either interviews or shots from live TV or my book or website or someone I've coached or whatever. And this is your internet footprint, and this travels a long way because you never know who's going to Google you. You never know who's going to check up on you on LinkedIn. You never know who's going to scroll through your profile and look at what articles you've done. This is one of the Chinese government media sources articles I did. They came and spent a weekend with me. So that's basically pushing me closer to the government football. Not that they're going to listen to what I say, but it just shows the reach that you can actually develop if you brand yourself correctly. So this shows how important your internet footprint is and why you should get your profile in place. Your CV and profile, I talk about it a lot, and people just say, no, it's my LinkedIn profile. I want to take a photo of me drinking Starbucks. Then fine. But when someone's checking on you as a professional football coach, and you've got in your title a licensed professional coach, and you're sat there drinking Starbucks or eating hot dogs or smoking a cigar or whatever on Twitter, it doesn't look really professional. You are your coaching brand. You can make it whatever you want it to be. And also, it's one of the most powerful tools you can have. I'm not ashamed to say it. You know, if I was going to go into another coaching role, it will most likely be on the teams I've coached. Because I can say, yeah, look, I was head coaching Ghana's second division, Philippines top tier, Taiwan top tier, China second division. That's not me being arrogant or anything, but that's just the facts. I don't have to say to him, oh yeah, but you know, sometimes I was only doing the warm-ups or I was putting out cones or something. I don't need to know that. It's your perception. So this is your greatest weapon as a coach that you can use, especially in Asia. Remember, materialistic. It's all what the eye can see. So get a role in Asia. Before you want to go anywhere abroad, especially in Asia, you've got to be honest with yourself. And I've made something called the scale of sacrifice. 0 to 10. It's a flexibility. How flexible are you willing to put yourself out to do whatever it takes, basically? If you're a 0 to 5, you're like, yeah, I really want to go to Asia because I want to make good money, or I want to go and try the Asian culture out. But I've got my family, and, you know, we've got 2 dogs. Well, you're probably a 1 or 2. Less likely you're going to get any opportunity or make one for yourself. I'm a 10. And I'm not shy in saying it. I'm a 10. If there's a job there, if I'm in England and I'm with someone on the scale of sacrifice of 5, and we're going for the same job, and an academy says, hey guys, can you fly over next week to come and do a demo? I'd be like, yeah, for sure. Now, there are some dangers and pitfalls through random agents and stuff, but if it was all legit, you do all the background checks and everything, I'll be, yeah. I wouldn't be thinking I can't afford it. If I couldn't, I'd make sure I could. I'll do whatever I needed to get on that plane, to get there, to do the demo. Whereas a person, the scale of sacrifice is still 5, it's like, oh no, because I've got my sister's wedding on that weekend and I can't get a flight from here because there's too many connecting flights to Shanghai. Already, I've got the job before you. And this is why, as bad as it sounds, and a lot of people won't like it, a lot of people may not agree with me, and that's fine. They don't need to, because everyone's got their different situations, their different characteristics. I've lost a lot. Basically, my marriage, again, I don't mind admitting it, my marriage has suffered. I'm separated because I'm a 10. I'm a 10 plus. If someone, in my day, when I was so obsessed about coaching and my career, if someone said, do you want to go and do you want to coach the Afghanistan women's national team? I would say, yeah. I'll be straight there. I'll be straight on the plane. And at the time, when I was in the Philippines, in China, my wife was pregnant with our son. And then I made it back just in time for the birth by 5 days. And now I look back, I can't imagine missing the birth. But at the time, that's something I was willing to do. Yes, for the family, the salary was great. I was supporting them. But also for my drive, my career. I'm a 10, and basically no one can get them away. So you've got to be honest with yourself. If not everyone's naturally a 5 to 10, but you've got to try and be a little bit more flexible. If not, you've got to put your expectations in line. The people towards the 10 are more likely going to create an opportunity or a career in Asia for themselves. And the people who are 0 to 5 are going to be left behind. They may go to Asia, they may hate it and come back. And the guy or the woman who's gone out there, put everything into it, they'll probably get the career they wanted as well. That's a scale of sacrifice. It plays a huge part, and it's so important. And finally, just the actions to take before you prepare to go abroad. I can't see the last one, but that's right. So evaluate. So what's your scale of sacrifice? What barriers are holding back? You can't afford to leave your family. Okay, then make sure you can afford to work 2 jobs for a year or 2. Just take down whatever's holding you back. Oh, we've got 2 cars. What we're going to do with the other car when I'm away? Okay, sell it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Oh, but our pets need this certain type of food. Get them another brand. Do whatever it takes to break down barriers and make your sacrifice levels go up, go higher. So evaluate your situation and decide, am I the right fit for it? Decide what country you want to go to. Don't just say, I want to go to Asia. I want to go to Thailand. Then you can focus more specifically. I want to go to Vietnam. Great. Be specific. Then you can start to research the location, the lifestyle, the visas you should be getting. Don't leave that to the employer. They might not do it. You can look to see if you're going to earn enough money for the living there. You may need to get another job. Maybe you want to go there and take action and actually fly to the country first, go on a holiday for 2 or 3 weeks. You're more likely to get a job that way, to actually get your feet on the ground first. If you don't get a football job, get a job teaching English. There's coaches out here now teaching English. One of them works for the national under-14 team. He used to be an English teacher. I used to coach him. He was one of my goalkeepers. Now he's working for the under-14s national team. I'm not, because he stayed in Taiwan. So I would say, if you can, get your feet on the ground first. Don't think you need a job, because someone in that country already is more likely to get a role than you are sat at home sending emails and making phone calls. You've got to be there already to reap the benefits. And finally, progress. Once you're there, once you've got that role, do good in your job, be a good coach, market yourself, and network. Networking's massive. Yes, everyone says it's who you know and not what you know. It's true, but not everyone's got that charisma or skill to strike up good relationships. It's no good going to a meeting with influential people and you just socially an absolute train wreck. No one's going to give you a job. No one's going to give you any help. If you go in what a lot of coaches still do, because I get the front of it, I might get a random email saying, Matt, have you got any contacts in Morocco? What? Or, hey, Matt, I want to go to Japan. Or, hey, Matt, I'm going to France. Do you know anyone? And this might be from people who's never contacted me before or never had time to talk with me when I've been busy. So this is how you got to look at your networking. This is how you got to look at giving before taking as well, because it works both ways, especially in Asia. In Asia, if you give before them, if you don't ask them for money or anything first or for anything in return, you'll get back tenfold. I know that. It's happened to me, and you'll get that back for sure. And to keep progressing, get ready for your next move. Even if you don't need a move, already have your next move in Asia lined up. If you're at an academy in Beijing, now this has happened, you then need to be looking for your next move. Coaches have gone from an academy in Beijing to a professional league in Cambodia. It's been done. To a professional academy in Thailand. It's been done. So this is a grassroots private academy, and they've gone into the professional senior game from there. It's all about the evaluation, the decisions, the research, taking action, and the progression you do when you're there as well. So just do whatever it takes. That's my opinion. I'm going to put my book out for free in the next couple of days as well. Totally free on not the book, that'll cost too much, but the iPad, the Kindle version. Also, if anyone wants to contact me, British Football Coaches Network members get it for free, online mentoring course. If you're not a member, email me, my details are there, and I'll give you it for 10 quid or $9.99 or something. So yeah, that's all of the kind of presentation, gents.
Fantastic. There's a few questions just to follow up with, if you don't mind. A few people have been in. Some of them are somewhat similar, but we'll just go through them. One from Mark says, would you say perhaps China might be a good place to begin your coaching career, opposed to building a profile in the UK and the USA, and then move into China? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm a little bit, this is kind of one-sided because I did it, so I'm going to say yes. But I can say yes because it can be done. I would say China will be a very good move. Again, email me because I have a potential private academy you can go to who are recruiting now. I don't want any money from you. I'll just put you in contact with the people who are doing the process from that academy. And you'll go there, you'll get help to find accommodation, you'll be making £1,200 a month, maybe more, maybe a little bit less. You'll be able to save, if you're not an animal going out every weekend or whatever, you'll be able to save half of that salary. If you stay doing that for a year, you'll take back £5,000 or £6,000 to your next country, or back to do your UEFA B or UEFA A, whatever you want to do. You do that for 2, 3 or 4 years, which people do. You know, I'm no mathematician, but you're starting to build a bit of security. So you then can move on and say to a club in the Philippines, hey, can I come and coach for you, be an assistant, you know, for minimum salary? You will have the security to then do that, and you're building your own pathway. I would suggest China, yes, for the challenge to develop yourself as a coach. The salary is all right because the cost of living is low. I don't mean the 1,200 salary. You know, it can go to a lot more. But the big thing for me, which I've not seen anywhere else in the whole world, I've lived in UAE, in Dubai, and Abu Dhabi. China, especially Shanghai and Beijing, it's a monster for networking. If you go there, you could, if you wanted, have meetings every single day with someone influential. You can get that done. So if you get paid to coach over there, and to have them doors opened up to that huge network, that huge marketing potential, for me, I would certainly do that rather than treading water in the UK somewhere, because there's already 4 coaches above the age levels what I want to get into.
I guess this next one from Liam kind of, I guess, goes the opposite direction. But if you build yourself a good profile in Asia, do you think that holds a lot of weight and credibility then coming back to the UK to work in academies?
Academies, potentially, yes. If you do good work, if you work at pro clubs in Asia as head of coaching or something like this, or head coach, and you've kind of got a little bit of, not a name, but a little bit of experience in the UK, when you come back, you can normally get a role again. There are coaches who have come back into roles. Now, if you're looking at, if all of your senior career are in Asia and you're looking to go back and expect to get into even a conference league team, it's going to be a no. You got national team managers from Asia who have coached, who have managed in World Cup qualifiers, who have won Asian Cups, who have managed against Ramirez from Chelsea, from Teixeira, from Joe, beaten Cannavaro and Ferrara as coaches. So even me as a coach, if I wanted to, I could say we've beaten, or I've beaten as a staff, Jordi Vinyals, who was a Barcelona B head coach. We beat them. We beat Fabio Cannavaro. Beat them. We beat Carrara Ferrara. Beat them. We didn't beat Seedorf because their match went a bit wrong. We didn't beat Clarence Seedorf's team. But, you know, you could have all that behind you. And like I said, you could be a national team manager of some amazing, well-known players. You go back to England, you're not going to get much time unless you have got some good contacts there already, or you have already had some experience in England, or you as an ex-player, which there's nothing wrong with that at all. But it's harder to go back as a senior coach if that's what you're looking to do. And if that's what you was going to do, I'd recommend going to Asia to be a senior coach, but you may end up kind of floating around abroad. Then when you want to come home and be with your family full time, whatever, you may find that a little bit harder.
Brilliant. That's a great answer. Thank you for that. So just want to say thanks for joining us there, Matt. You know, lots of great information. I hope everyone's, you know, taken a lot of value from this. I know I have personally. Obviously, Matt's details are there on screen. And as he said, feel free to contact him if you have any further questions, or, you know, need information on the process of moving abroad and coaching in Asia and things like that. Again, follow us on Twitter, the Halftime Review. Check your inboxes as well. We'll be sending out messages and information on upcoming webinars as well. Thanks for joining us. And again, big thanks to you for joining us, Matt. I know it's late for you, so brilliant. Thank you.
Hey, James, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care, and get that career pathway pumping up. See you later, guys.
Brilliant.